Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. I am Tony Lynch. I am your host. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head over to that YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, before we get started, and as always, we have another amazing guest for you guys. Um, Let me just make sure that we're doing it live over here as well. So yeah, we are live on all platforms. So if you guys are missing it on one, go check it out on the other. And down below is the links, is all the platforms that we're on. All you got to do is type in "Grief Let's Talk About It" podcast. You will find us. Now, before we get started, this is for educational purposes only. And as always, we are bringing a very amazing guest for you guys today. Duschanca is here. We've talked before that when you guys hear a story, you guys are going to be like, holy crap. But do me a favor, if you guys have any questions or comments, put those in the comment section. We will be happy to answer them in real time for you guys. And as always, I appreciate you guys for your support. Love you guys. Now, without further ado, I'm gonna bring my guest on up here. Duschanca, how you doing today, my friend?
I am really good. Thank you so much for having me, Tony.
Of course, of course. We've talked before, right? So before we get started, tell people who you are and where you're from.
I'm Duschanca. I'm a holistic empowerment coach, Reiki practitioner, and most recently, podcaster. I'm currently living in Sydney, though I have lived in South Africa and London, but back to Sydney now. So yeah, it's currently 8 a.m. in Sydney, so starting my
Okay.
day.
Yeah, see, you starting your day off right. You're having a great
Yes.
conversation and everything else. Ma, you got an impressive background and impressive resume. But as we all know, there's a story that comes along with that, right? Um, let's,
Yeah. So
let's dive into your story. Let's tell people
sure.
how you became who you are and doing the work that you're doing right now.
Okay. So I spent about 20 years working in investment management and both in Sydney and in London. And, I thought that was what I was meant to be doing with my life and, get the good job, tick, well paid, tick, all that sort of stuff. Um, but I just didn't feel like me while I was doing that work. And the longer I did it, the further away I was moving from who I really was.
Mhm.
Um, so, and it was actually in 2015 when one of my dogs died, and that's it. People sometimes hear it and go, "Oh, your dog died," but that was a real kind of life-changing experience for me.
Mhm.
I had had her since she was a puppy, and she was honestly the love of my life. Uh, and after she died, it kind of made me question everything because, I was spending really long hours working, and being very well paid, but I wasn't happy. And one of my biggest regrets was that in her final months, um, I was working, and I just didn't get to have enough time with her. And when she died, it just really hit me that, what am I doing with my life? I'm not enjoying myself. I'm not happy. Um, and it really made me question what makes me happy. And yeah, so I ended up quitting that job, and I then started working for an animal welfare charity, which I had been volunteering with them for years,
Mhm.
um, just helping out on the reception. But I found a full-time paid role at the charity. So I was kind of living my dream because I was making a difference to the lives of cats and dogs and people. And I remember being at that charity, and one of my first days, I met I'll call them my soul sisters. I met two really amazing girls there. And I remember, like, it was my first week and they were talking about dogs' bums. And I thought to myself, I have found my people. It was like this really weird moment because I was like, oh my God, these are my people. I've found my people.
Yeah.
Because if talking about dogs' bums in investment management, didn't go down well.
I can only imagine.
um, so yeah, and then I spent 5 years at that amazing charity. I actually also became a dog trainer, and during COVID, I also looked after their dog therapy program. So, yeah. But COVID was a bit of a reset for me, and I realized that I needed to be closer to my family and my friends and the beach. So I moved back to Sydney in 2022. Yes. So yeah, so that's kind of me. Once I got back to Sydney, I was again looking to see what I was going to do with my life. I was working for a dog grooming product company, and it just didn't feel like me. And that's when I decided to start a life coaching certification. So, and that's now been a year that I've been running my business, and I'm really enjoying helping women who feel a bit stuck, feel a bit, lost. I like to say stuck, stagnant, and spiritless. And I think we can all kind of resonate to feeling like that at one point in our lives. And after my dog died, that's kind of how I felt. I felt really stuck. I had no spirit left in me at all. And then I had to kind of build myself up from the bottom to try and work out what makes me happy, who am I? and it's a big question, but yeah, I had to look at what makes me happy, and and start doing things that made me happy, because I think very often we can live for other people, and I finally decided to start living for myself.
I love that. I love that, and I want to just touch on something that you said. When you lost your pet, your dog, and it's something that's so common that I think a lot of people don't never pay attention to it. They always assume. They always say, "Oh, it's just a dog. It's just an animal,"
Mm,
or something like that.
yeah.
And what a lot of people don't understand is that those so-called pets are, in a lot of cases, are people's family members. They've been with you for
Mm,
years, right?
mhm.
And so I definitely understand.
Yeah.
Now, what is the craziest thing that someone said to you when that happened? I mean, because we all go through that motion. People say some crazy stuff, right? That made you made you look at them and go, you know what? Say it again, we'll throw punch you, right?
Uh, yeah, that would have been someone saying to me, well, I've had a couple of comments like, "It's just a dog." I
Hmm.
was like, "No, she is not just a
Little bit
dog."
more than that, buddy.
And then the other one was, "Why don't you just get another dog?" And that I was like, they are all individual souls, and you can't just, it's not replaceable. They're not replaceable, you know?
Right.
If you lose your mum, do you just go and get another mum? That's not how it works, you know? So, and as you said, they're family members. And
Yeah.
um, I think it's nice when you can speak to people who understand your
Mhm.
grief. And I think because I was volunteering and in the animal welfare space, when she did die, I got so much support, so much love, because they were animal people. And I was volunteering at the time, and I remember that, you know, just the card that everyone had written in to say, like, we're so sorry for your loss, and, those kind of thoughtful things. Um, it's nice when you find your people and people that can understand where you're coming from. Um, but it was a really hard time. And I think also, um, the different stages of grief. I think I I spent a long time in guilt, because my dog Maya had cancer, and she had an inoperable tumor in her nasal cavity.
Mhm.
And so we always knew that that was going to kill her, because it was going to get so big that it was going to affect her brain and, all sorts of stuff. So I decided to do chemotherapy on her. And so the vet gave her 3 months, and I managed to have her for 7. Um, And I had so much guilt because I realized that I was keeping her alive for me and not for her, because I didn't want to face a world without her. And it took me a long time to make peace and stop feeling guilty. And I think the day I put her to sleep, because at that point she had the tumor had gotten so big it was affecting her brain, and she started having seizures. And I remember after I put her to sleep and I walked back home, I felt relief, and that made me feel guilty too,
Wow.
because I felt the relief of not having. It was really stressful. I was doing it all on my own as well, and
Mhm.
I was living in London, and I didn't drive at that time. So for me to take her to her appointments, which were about over an hour away, because she was seeing like a neurologist and all sorts of stuff. Um, I would have to take black taxis because they take dogs. So
Okay. Okay.
the traditional black taxis that you see in London. And even just that was really stressful because I would have to call a black taxi and make sure that they knew I was taking a big dog. And then it was like an hour. It was so expensive. And yeah, and then I would have to come home, like, put her back in the house and then get ready, go to work. And yeah, it was just really stressful. And I did it all by myself. I didn't have any family. I had a lot of support from friends, but um, I'm also very bad at asking for help. So
Understood.
yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of I think that guilt piece, yeah, stuck with me for a long time.
Wow. I can, in a lot of ways, I can definitely understand that, you know, the relationships that we do have with animals. I have friends. I have a friend right now. He has a African gray parrot. Me and this parrot always having words. We always having words. Tony, forget you. Forget you, right? And it sounds strange, right? But I can relate to what you're saying on so many levels because although this is my buddy's parrot, right? This is his African gray. Me and that bird, we got a relationship. We didn't already
Mhm.
have words. We didn't already had to, we just had some times together. But now, now on the flip side, although we go through all of these different things, he'll come and sit up on my shoulder and he'll kiss me on the cheek and everything, and he'll wait. Give me one, give me one. I'm like, shut up, I'll give you one. Here you go, right? Thank you. And he goes back and does his own thing. Now the bird is a pain in the butt. He's like my little buddy, right? You know what I'm saying? So I understand. If something was to happen to that bird, I think I'd be very heartbroken, right? Because I've seen him since he was like a little kid, a little parakeet,
Mm.
right? You know what I'm saying? And so understood, very, very understood. And everybody's always asking me, where you going? I said, I'm going over and see Johnny. That's the bird's name. I'm going over to see Johnny. We ain't going over there to see your buddy. I'm like, no, I'm going here to see Johnny. Why? Because my buddy called me and put Johnny on the phone, and Johnny asked if I could come over and come see him. Right? That's what I said too. I was like, and
I
they all looked at
love
me like,
that.
oh, the bird asked if you could. I was like, yeah, it's a long story. It's a whole lot of things you don't want to get involved in over this. And I go over there, and the bird is just freaking awesome, right? I got another buddy, come from a place like yourself of relationships with dogs, right?
Mhm.
Um, One of my best friends, his name is Snowball. He was my buddy. I had him
Yeah.
ever since I was a little kid. Now, what kind of dog did you have? Because you said it's a big dog.
Yeah, she was a Staffy Rottweiler cross.
Oh,
So yeah, she was a big. At her heaviest, she was probably about 46 kilos. But then because of the cancer and the treatment, she got down to I'd say like the mid 30s. But yeah, she was the size of a Rottweiler bitch. But she was a beautiful tan. I also had her sister as well. So I got her as a puppy. And then when they were about 6 months old, um, her sister's owner didn't want her anymore. And
Oh, wow.
we thought we'd try and rehome her, my ex and I. And they actually just clicked, and they just were so amazing together. And we realized we couldn't split them up. So and then having her sister Kelsey, she became like my rock. And I just I couldn't have gotten through all of that grief without Kelsey, because when you have a dog, you tell them your secrets, you tell them your dreams, you tell them your wishes, your hopes, and you tell them your sorrows as well. And I just remember, like, my dogs have always slept with me, which some people find a bit weird, but that's just what happens in my household. Actually, with all my family members, my parents included, our dogs, they're on our beds. And I remember those first couple of weeks, just hanging on to Kelsey, and just like kind of just crying into her, and she just would just take it, and she would just let me do what I needed to do. But yeah, it's yeah.
Got a
And
question.
Staffies are just the best dogs in the world.
Oh, okay.
I've now got my third Staffy cross,
Okay.
and yeah, they're just such amazing pets, and they have such a bad rep, but they're
Mhm.
just loving, loyal goofballs.
Yes,
Yeah,
they are.
yeah.
Yes, they are. I totally agree with you. But now I do have the question of, when Kelsey lost her sister,
Mm.
how did Kelsey take it? Because you were there with him, although Kelsey was comforting you
Yeah.
and everything. I can only imagine. I've talked to a lot of CBT experts well, one in particular, shout out to Billy Groom, um, and she was talking about the grieving process when it comes to canines,
Mm.
right? And so now you have Kelsey's sister. I mean, yeah, you just lost Kelsey's sister, and you have Kelsey there with you, and
Yeah.
you're going through the process of grief. How how did Kelsey handle that process, and how did you comfort her as you guys were both going through it?
To be honest, I think she enjoyed being an only dog. Maya would try and cuddle her and things like that, and she would just be like, "Go away, leave me alone, give me space."
Mhm.
And I think Kelsey could sense the decline in Maya, because Maya was always the playful, silly one,
Mhm.
um, overconfident, and just so like she thought the world revolved around her, whereas Kelsey was very much the sit back and just like, ah, I'll just see what she does, and then I'll kind of follow her. And after Maya died, I think Kelsey just got this. She got a bit of a new lease of life. Also, we were able to do more things, because when Maya was sick, we were limited on how long we could go for walks. And Kelsey just loved to run, and she would chase squirrels for hours if I let her. She just loved it. And so after Maya died, we were able to do all of that stuff again. And then also just having one dog, I was able to take her out more. And one of my dreams was always to be able to take my dog to work. And so
Mhm.
when I started working at the charity, I was able to, and Kelsey loved it. There's a part of the road where if we cross one way, it means we go to work, and if we go the other way, we're not going to work. And the second we just turn, she'd just be like, "Yeah, I'm going into work." Um, and Kelsey just loved being around people. She loved riding on the bus, because in London you can take them on all public transport. It is
Okay.
incredible. You can take them to so many restaurants and pubs and bars, and it's just the most dog friendly place. I loved it. And so I would take Kelsey everywhere. We would go on these huge adventures, And I think she really enjoyed it. I'm sure she missed Maya,
Mhm.
but and I'm sure she missed the companionship when she was home alone. But because of my new job and now just having one dog, Kelsey was able to spend so much more time with me. So I think, yeah, she got to have a good couple of years having me all to herself. So I think she liked that.
Nice. And how long did you have Kelsey after Maya passed?
So sadly, Kelsey also got cancer, and I made the decision to say goodbye to her 5 days after her 12th birthday. So that was about 3.5 years after Maya died. Um, but I made sure with Kelsey I was going to do it differently. Um, the vet, she had this tumor on her right near her back knee, and we removed it once, but it just grew back really quickly. And the only option, there were two options. There was amputating her leg
Mhm.
to get rid of the tumor, and the other option was, putting her to sleep. So it was a really hard decision, but I'd learnt my mistakes from Maya. I wasn't going to prolong this. And she was 11, like almost 12 anyway. And I was like, there's no, the vet said she will adapt. However, she's a big dog. She's an old dog, and she's already got the start of arthritis and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
And if I learned anything from Maya, it was that I would do the best for Kelsey, not me. I would
Right.
think about Kelsey's well-being instead of what I wanted. Obviously, with our dogs or cats or any animal, we want to have them for as long as we can. But I also wanted her to be happy. And if she wasn't going to be able to run and chase squirrels, that she wouldn't have been happy. So, um, but yeah, so it was really different because I got to plan the date, and her 12th birthday was coming up. And I just said to my friends, we're giving her a party. I've never done it before, but we're giving Kelsey a party. So my friends that I mentioned earlier, my soul sisters that I met at the charity, they came over to my place with one of their dogs, and they brought cupcakes, and we went for a walk. We came back, we drank some wine. Yeah, we just had an amazing little party for Kelsey, and we made her wear a party hat. She hated it so much. But she was so cute. She was so cute. So yeah, so I wanted to make sure that I learned from that mistake. And Kelsey's passing was just the most peaceful. I cried, but I felt at peace with the decision because I knew it was the right one
Yeah.
and at the right time. Yeah.
I love that, man. I definitely love that. I can't say I've ever thrown my dogs a party, but I will say it has been a party with them. On several occasions where I had to be like, look, 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 you can't eat all of that, okay? No, that's why you're fat, Some
Uh,
dogs you just don't call fat. They may take it personal, right? You know what I'm
big
saying?
boned, big boned, big
No, no,
boned.
no. I called my female dog fat one time, and she looked at me and she had an attitude with me for like a week. I was like, look, just face the facts. You need to exercise a little bit more. Going about her way, right? Just with all this old attitude. I'm like, don't you give me the attitude.
Oh, I love that. I can
Like,
just picture it. I can
yeah,
just
yeah.
picture it.
And she was a full-blooded red-nosed pit bull, right?
Oh,
And she
amazing.
was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But man, she was sassy. She was a little diva too. Little diva. Yeah, you know how when you say, Chelsea didn't like to wear the hat. Oh yeah, she had
Yeah,
to have her little paws done and everything because the kids used to like to paint her toenails and stuff.
I love that.
Sit up there like that, and then they used to her harness had to have glitter on it, of course. Like she was like, no, I want that one. I was like, pick out the one you want. I'm thinking, grab one, let's get it and let's go. Right? No, no, no. She had to go through this one right here. I was like,
She's a female. This is,
she's a
it's her
diva. No, there's a
prerogative.
difference. There's a difference. She was a diva. Now I have females that was just like, look, just grab the big old thing and come on, let's go. You know what I'm saying? No, she had it. No, she was
Yeah,
different, but I loved her to death. Now, you
yeah.
did mention something. Um, and I want to touch on it a little bit because I think it's really, really interesting. CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. Now, you had gotten into that, correct?
No, no,
No,
not me. No,
the CBT. No, no, that wasn't you. I
no.
thought you just mentioned that. No. Okay, so let's backtrack. What was what was the steps that you've taken, and how did you begin to maneuver around, and get into the work that you was doing after all of that? And then when did you finally decide to get a new baby?
When I was working at the charity,
Mm,
I I decided maybe 2 years after Maya died that, okay, I was ready to start looking for my new family member, and I was working at a rescue, so this is, it was perfect.
mm,
But, so I kind of, like, had the pick of any dog that would come in if I wanted to, but I found it so hard to find a connection with any of the dogs, and, I'm also a huge believer in what's meant for me will not pass me by.
mm. Yes.
And, it's something that I live by. And I remember I would see photos of dogs and I would just be like, oh my God, I've got to see. There was this one Rottweiler in particular. I love those dogs and I will
Mhm.
have one day. Um, and I remember meeting her and I just didn't feel it. I just didn't feel a connection to her. As beautiful as she was, I was like, she's not my dog. And then it was actually one day I was meant to have a meeting and they messaged to say they were going to be half an hour late. So I said to my friend who worked in the kennels, and I was like, I've got half an hour. Can we go play with the dog while we wait? And he was
Right.
like, yeah, sure. He was like, oh, you've got to come meet this Staffy Cross. And I said, oh, I'm not really interested in puppies because I didn't want to go. I wasn't in a position to be caring for a puppy.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm not really interested in puppies. And he's like, oh, no, she's not really a puppy. She just looks like one. I was like, oh, okay. And I walked in through the door into the kennel, and I felt it immediately. I was like, ah, that's my dog. That's my dog. That's her.
I love it.
And yeah, so I spent some time with her. And then she obviously had to meet Kelsey because we had to see if they got along and, was Kelsey gonna accept her?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, Kelsey was like, "Oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, bring her home if you want." Um, but it took some time to settle them both in. And I remember um, Jada, my current dog, she was just this ball of energy. She was just like a bit of anxious energy as well, so it's like just
Mhm.
scatty and things like that. And she would try and bully Kelsey. And I just remember Kelsey would look at me like, why did you do this? Why? Why? And I was just, I'm so sorry, Kelsey. But Jada had a really awful time for the first couple of years of her life.
Mhm.
She was treated really badly. She was, um, we believe she was used for breeding, and she'd recently just had a litter of pups. She's got like a mark across her muzzle from where they used to tape her muzzle shut.
Mhm.
She was extremely underweight and just covered in scars and things like that. So she needed a lot of love. And actually, Kelsey was the perfect dog to show her how to be a dog.
Mhm.
She'd never really walked on a lead before. She didn't, she just, we believe she was just kept somewhere and just used for breeding. And then when, you know, maybe she wasn't having great litters or something like that, but they decided to get rid of her. And yeah, I just remember like having Kelsey there to show her the ropes was just amazing, because there were some times where she'd be a bit scared of something, but she'd look to Kelsey, and Kelsey was just not phased by anything at this point. She was
Mhm.
an old lady. and and so Jada would look at her and go, oh, okay, cool. All right. Nothing to worry about here. We'll just keep going. And, So yeah, and I only had them both for about 5 months, and I remember one of the first days that Jada was home, they were in the backyard, and I remember, oh, I'm gonna cry. I remember calling out, "Girls, come in!" And I just started crying because it had been so long since I was able to say, "Girls, come in." And
Mhm.
yeah, because after Maya died, it was just it was just a really nice little moment. And I remember just messaging my friends going, "Oh my God, I just said girls come in. This is so exciting."
I love it, man. I love it.
But yeah, there and Jada made the big trip from London to Sydney with me. So, and
Okay.
I'm so grateful to have her. She's loving Sydney life. She's loving the beach. She's loving having grandparents.
What?
My parents are like spoil her rotten. And we were talking about sleeping in beds.
Uh-huh.
Jada actually sleeps in between my mum and dad in bed, under the covers, in between them.
Oh,
So,
see, now, see, that's okay too, right? Because I read
yeah.
one somewhere. It was an article that I had seen. When dogs are allowed to, be dogs, jump in bed, sleep with individuals, and things like that, people actually live a lot longer, and
Yes,
the
I've
dogs live a lot longer, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, and the reason why I say that, if I'm wrong, just let me know. Um, but I used to have a Great Dane when I was with my son's mother, and she ended up giving my dog away when we broke up. So I was heartbroken, but the dog was fine too, right?
Yeah.
Long as Tonka went to a good home, I was like, all right, that's okay. Even though it sucks that you did that, but I'm
Mhm.
like, okay. And they Tonka was she was a blue marrow Great Dane, beautiful, beautiful dog, and she was probably around 65, 70 pounds, right?
Wow.
And still growing, still growing. She was only maybe about a year old, and so she was still growing. She was a huge dog, right? You know what I'm saying? If you ever wanted to ride a dog, that would be the one that you want to ride. And so they were like, yeah, the individuals just messaged me. It's been probably around 15 years now. And well, actually a little bit longer than that, probably about 16 years now. And they showed a picture of her, and she's still just gray around the face now. So she's an old woman, right? Big
That's
old
amazing.
smile on her face. She got a little pink
Mm.
handkerchief on her, and they never changed the name, so her name is still Tonka and everything. This is just recently. And I had read one time that Great Danes only live around 7, 8 years or
Mhm.
something around
Yeah.
somewhere around there. And it's been
Yeah.
15 years and they still have her. And she's still walking around. I mean, she lives up in the mountains, so she get to chase the elk, right? The squirrels
Yeah.
I tried to tell them don't let her go play with the bears or the mountain lions, but however that works out for them, and things like that. But I was, it's just like humans in a way, right? You know what I'm saying? Once you pair with the right human in life, you tend to
Mhm.
live a more fulfilled, happier life. So I can only
Yes.
imagine that applying it to the life of a dog or your beloved
Yeah.
pet. You know, how does that work and things like that? And I found it very interesting to know that hey, it works the same way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
So now with the work that you do, how I mean, you kind of moved around a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying, trying to figure out what it was that you was going to do and
Mhm.
everything else. So how did those losses, as well as having the new puppy in your life, um, kind of mold how you was going to show up in the work that you do now?
Um, yeah, so I'm not working with dogs at the moment, and I miss it. I miss it quite a lot. And, I've considered going back into dog training or something like that. But what I'm doing now is, so I think I was brought onto this earth to help people.
Hmm.
And when I worked at the charity, I was able to help dogs and people, well, dogs and cats and people. And now I've moved. away from helping dogs and into helping people. So, and I hope that in the future that I'll be able to help dogs again. And I just don't know in what way that would be.
Mhm.
I think, working at a charity is the most rewarding experience. You get to see animals coming in with, you know, after having awful things happen to them or awful life experiences, and then you get to see them go to their new homes, and it's it's pretty magical. Um, and I learnt so much there, and I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now if it hadn't been for the working at the charity. So, even things like with my podcast, the skills that I learnt at the charity, I used to run workshops with a dog trainer who was also a good friend of mine. And so, yeah, just it gave me all these skills that I needed for now. And it's funny because at the time you don't know how what you're doing is right now is going to like affect you in the future.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, looking back, I think those years at the animal welfare charity just really set me up. I think the main thing it did was allowed me to be in a space where I was able to become me again,
Mhm.
which I wasn't able to do at the charity. Sorry, at the investment management place. I didn't feel like me. And this working in charity, it just felt like so aligned with me. And yeah, and I'm now really lucky that I get to use all those amazing skills that I learnt um, in my own business,
Okay.
helping
So
people. So
I love that. I definitely love that. Now you started a podcast, right? So
I did.
let's talk about the how did you get into podcasting, right? And how has that affected your journey in life as well? Because we've talked before and everything,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that you did this. Let's dive into that a little bit.
So I I was actually doing a meditation. I did a workshop, and when we were clearing out our throat chakra, I just received this really strong knowing that it just kept saying, like, you need to use your voice to help people heal. And I was just like, okay. And I just wrote it all down. When we come out of the meditation, I just like wrote all the messages that I kind of heard, and then I just kind of said to the universe, okay, I got this message. I heard you, but what do I do? How do I use my voice?
Mhm.
And then, when you ask the universe for something, it delivers, it tells you. So, so in the next couple of days and weeks, I just started having these experiences. Like at a networking event, I met three different people at three different times that said, you have an amazing voice. You should do a podcast. And I kind of went, oh, okay. And I didn't put too much weight into it. And then I just kept having more experiences, like people saying things relating to podcasts. And um, so I thought, okay, let's have a look at this. There's also an exercise I do with some of my coaching clients as well, and it's to bring more purpose into your life. And people often think that purpose is a big thing, right? Like I must be a doctor or like have one thing, and actually doing little things can bring purpose into your life. Volunteering at an animal shelter can bring
Yes,
purpose into your life.
yes.
It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be life changing. But when I help my clients with this, I have an exercise where you look at your resume and you forget about what you did there, and you concentrate. You have three columns. So you say what the position was or the company was. What did you love about it? What aspects? And it's not about like I filed reports. It's like looking at what benefits, what amazing things you did while you were there. And then the other column is what you did not like. And
Mhm.
if you look at all the things that you like, you should pretty much be able to see what kind of career, if you're looking for a new career, using those likes to see what career path to take or potential path to take.
Right.
And I did that exercise on myself after I kept hearing about this podcast. And a lot of my things that I loved about the roles that I've had in the past has been connecting with people and being, helping people, whether that's and kind of training people. Like even in the investment management world, I did a lot of training with new staff and things like that. So, that education part was really important to me, and helping people. It's just always been what I've done.
Yeah.
And when I looked at all of those, I kind of went, okay, yeah, all right, podcast. That makes sense, because I love talking to people. I love hearing people's stories, and even at the investment management place, I was the person that everyone would tell all their secrets to. you know, they would just, I would we'd be at the pub, and the boys would just come up to me and spill their guts about their relationships or their struggles, or and I've just always been that person. So yeah, so that's kind of how I came to the idea of doing a podcast. And then I thought about, what do I like talking about? And I love talking about how people change their lives. I love talking about how you can, the life that you're in now does not have to be it
Mhm.
unless you want it to be,
Right.
And so my podcast is called That Was the Moment. And it's basically conversations with people about a moment that changed their lives.
Mhm.
And we all have those moments. We've got many of those moments, but it's interesting when I tell people about my podcast, they go, and they have that moment come straight to their brain. Because while we have so many moments that change and can define our lives, there's always those standout moments. Then you're like, yes, I remember. And like sometimes the moments are so vivid. You can remember what time it was. You can remember what you were wearing. You can, you can go back into
Yeah.
that moment
Yeah.
when it's that strong. So, and my aim with the podcast is I hope that my podcast would be a moment for someone. So perhaps they're listening to it and they can resonate with something one of my guests say, and that helps them move to the next thing. Or I did a recording just yesterday about a woman that left a really abusive relationship, and I was like, I hope someone is going to be listening and just needed to hear someone else and how someone else did it, and
Mhm.
then decides, actually, I'm going to do that too. And yeah, so that's how I'm trying to help people heal with my voice.
See, I
So
love that, and you got the perfect podcast voice too, man. I'm over here listening to you, like I'm just gonna shut up and let you go ahead and talk, because man, I can listen to you, but the conversations that you have and things like that are just phenomenal,
yeah,
just simply phenomenal. And thank you for getting into the podcast world as well. There's so many things out there, so many people that are doing it, but I think the purpose behind having inspiring conversations is to inspire other people and let them know that educate them, right? You know what I'm saying? To give them hope
that's
as well, to let them know that they're not by themselves.
mhm.
And I can again, are you now? What platforms are your podcasts on? Because I want to make sure that people know to go and check you out.
I'm on almost all platforms. So I'm on Spotify, Apple, I'm on YouTube. It's you can find me on your favorite podcast app. And I'm so excited to have you on.
This is
I'm
very
really looking
true.
forward. Yeah, I'm really
Yeah,
looking
I'm,
forward to
I'm
that
looking
conversation.
forward to it. So I can only imagine, you're gonna be like, remember when you was asking me all those questions, Tony? I got you. No, I'm
Uh,
definitely looking forward to it. So, for everybody out there, go and check her out. Again, say the name again so people know.
that was the moment.
Yeah. So you guys
Yeah.
check her out. She's on all the platforms. If you guys, go check her out on YouTube, let her know that Tony sent you. But give her a subscribe. Let her know that, I'm saying, she's loved and supported her over there and in everything that she do. And
Yeah.
check out her conversations. Trust me, I already have, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So guys, please check
Thanks.
her out. Definitely please
Yeah.
check her out.
Thanks so
Uh,
much. Yeah, I've got some lovely conversations coming up too. So I'm very, very excited to share these with the world and share this. Yeah. I think sharing stories is a great way for people to connect. And you said it earlier, showing people that we're not alone. And I bet, with your podcast, grief can feel like a very lonely place. And yeah,
it's not just a feeling, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's just not it's just not a feeling. Like what the one thing I always try to explain to people, grief is very selfish. This is the reason why they
Hmm.
say that it's a very lonely road. Now, what I mean by that, and it is nothing personal against anyone. When grief shows up into your life, it says, "Hey, regardless of where you at, what you're doing, or who you're with, I need your attention." Right? You can try to ignore it all you want, but it's not going anywhere. So that's why I said that when your grief is very selfish, but everyone has their own way of handling the selfishness of their own grief,
Hmm.
right? The problem is that a lot of people like to assume that it's such a isolated thing, and it really isn't. It's a people experience it.
Yeah.
The road of grief is very lonely, right? Because regardless, if you and I experience the same loss, right? You're going to process it one way, I'm going to process it another way. Not saying that your way is wrong or my way is wrong or right, right?
Yeah.
It's just the way that it is. And it all depends on the relationship you have with that individual or your pet, right?
Hmm.
So, what I'm saying? Say for instance, you know, if you had met one of my dogs or something like that, and I've raised that dog my whole entire life, well, its whole entire life, right? Of
Yeah.
course, my relationship is going to be a little different with that
Hmm.
dog, right? And you come in, and my dog may decide, hey, I don't like Tony no more. I like her a lot better. I've had that, I mean, dogs do
Yes.
that. When dogs do that, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm done with you. I like her, you know.
Yeah.
Or
And they say
I
they're
don't like
loyal.
you anymore. I like him, right? You know what I'm saying? So you do have those. Those things do happen, and what changes the dynamic of the relationship that you have with
Hmm.
said pet or that individual. And so when you lose such a family member like that, of course, that's when grief shows up and says, hey, based on your relationship, this is how your grief is going to be. So that's why I said grief is very, very selfish, right? Because
Yeah.
what it teaches you is going to be different from what it teaches me. The key to it is to come together afterwards and be able to take said lessons
Hmm. Yeah.
and from what we've learned and be able to share with one another, but be able to respect each other's journey. And so and that's what I mean. I'm saying? Perception versus reality, I'm saying? The selfishness of your grief and allowing yourself to be selfish within your grief, but also learning how to share um share your grief with others. That's a whole different subject that we can dive into one of these
Yeah.
times. But it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting how that works out, right? Because I get so many people to go, what are you talking about? And then when I break it down, they're like, oh, yeah, like, yeah, yeah. Just like your fingerprints, right? You know what I'm saying? Your grief is going to be unique to you and your relationship. And you may not have a relationship with the person or the pet who passed away. So that's going to change the dynamic of how you grieve. I mean, regardless of who you are in the situation, you still want to grieve one way or another. It's inevitable, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
now, let's, hmm, how can people find you? I got
Uh,
your description down below, but let's let
yeah.
people know how they can find you.
So I am on Instagram. So you can follow my podcast. That was the Moment podcast on Instagram, or on my coaching side. I've got so many Instagrams. on, on my coaching and Reiki business is Nautilus Holistic Healing, and again, I'm on Facebook and Instagram for both. So yeah.
Okay.
And then I've got a personal account, but it's really just not very interesting. And actually, I've always shared it with my dogs because I feel like I'd love to be one of those dog mums that has a Instagram for their dog, but I'm just really slack at at doing that. So we share the Instagram. So it's Duschanca Jada. It's Duschanca Jada on Instagram, because I feel like neither of us are interesting enough to create a whole page. But if we share, it's great. So you'll see some stuff of me and a lot of my dog as well, because she's a little character, and she's quite a little star.
That is hilarious. She goes, switch here. I love that. I always ask my guests this. If you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with today?
Enjoy every moment that you have with your loved ones, whether it's your dog, your cat, your bird, your best friend. I think just enjoy the moments, and maybe like right now, tell one of them that you love them, because I feel like we don't say it enough.
I like that. I'm trying to think, does fish count too? Because
I mean, sure, why not?
I'm thinking, because I got some fish and everything. I mean, I'm not quite sure how they feel about me just yet, but I'm working on it. I've known them since they was like yay big, but now they like that big, and I'm still, I think they're using me, but I'm not sure. Like, just feed me, Tony. Just get on out of my way, feed me, right? I'm like, you know what? You ain't gotta be a bully to me.
Well, in London, I used to always also have a snake, which was I sadly could not bring her to Australia because you're not allowed to, you need a special license, and she's not native to the country, so I wasn't allowed to bring her back. But I got her. I brought her with me this way in a tattoo.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you had a snake. Now we got to talk about this, right? What kind of snake was she?
She was an American snowcorn. She was very pretty, and I had her for 17, nearly 17 and a half years. I had her for in London. She was amazing, and she actually. So corn snakes really enjoy being held, and they love human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really funny. She was always like the party trick. So every time I had barbecues and parties at my house, everyone wanted to hold Spelly. Her name was Spelly.
Okay.
And so everyone would just be like, "Oh my God, get Spelly out!" And so she would just like go from person to person, and everyone loved that. But what I used to love the most about her is that when I held her, she didn't move. And I remember I've actually got a video of one of my last nights with her before I gave her to the reptile center.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just sitting on the sofa with her, and she just didn't move. She just stayed, and it was like we were saying goodbye. That was a really hard one to say goodbye to, because also she wasn't dead, and
Right.
corn snakes tend to live up to the age of 20, but it's also rare for them to live that long, it's just, whenever I told, snake people that I had a 10-year-old snake, they were like, "Really? Like, you've managed to keep her alive for that long?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know how." I don't know. And so I was really worried about, like, I hated the fact that I felt like I was abandoning her, and but the choice was taken off my hands. If I could have brought her, I would have.
Right.
And but the reptile center, they said to me, she'll find home really quickly because snakes are such a long-term commitment. People don't necessarily want a snake for 20 years because they don't know where their life's going to be. But if you get an older snake and know that, it's potentially a 3 to 5 year commitment, then people find that a little bit easier, than saying, here's a 20-year commitment. So I don't know where she is now, but I hope that if she's still around, because she would now be, she'd be 20 this year. She'd be 20 this year. So
Okay.
yeah, she'd be 20 in July. So yeah, hopefully she's still around. Still, when she was a baby, because she was about this big when we first got her, she was so cute. She was like a little worm, and when she was really small, I used to put her in my hoodie and like just walk around the house with her, do the dishes, and she would just like hang in there and.
Oh,
Yeah, I do miss her. She was always a very big talking point with my friends and family, because not many people have snakes, but she's
yeah, no, I understand. I have a friend right now. I'm not gonna say his name, but he got a lot of exotic animals.
mhm.
We're gonna let him keep them, right? We ain't gonna say where he's at, but I do know for a fact right now he has like a 6-foot alligator in a part of his
uh,
house,
uh,
and he plays with it. I often look at him and go, "You do realize that's an alligator that you have in your home?" He goes, "Oh, he's fine. He's good. He don't bite." What?
Yet.
Yeah, no. It does, right? He just doesn't bite him. So I realized this, and they also have a few other exotic animals in different parts of his house that you shouldn't go in. And off the time, he's like, "Come on, Tony, let's go in here." I was like, "No, no. Have you not seen the Animal Kingdom? I watched National Geographic. I'm not about to go in there with him. Oh, he ain't gonna mess with you."
Oh
Yeah,
my
but
goodness.
that's not what they said on National Geographic. I saw what he did to the gazelle. I can't outrun him. What makes you think I'm going to go in there? I can't outrun him. No. We're not going
Oh,
to do that. I'm not going to go play with the alligator. I'm not going to go play with your big cats. Definitely not going to play with that one over there. No. I saw what he did. No, we're not going to do it. So he always
a
called
wise
me.
decision.
You just a scaredy cat. I said, yeah, I'd rather be a live scaredy cat than
Alive.
a dead scaredy cat. I mean, you do
Absolutely.
realize one of them got teeth that long. No, I'm not about to do that. You can have your relationship with him, though. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, when I visit my friend, I only stay in certain parts of his house. Yeah.
That seems like a
If he
very
go
wise
play with
decision.
the pets, I don't do that, right?
Yeah.
No. Oh
Love
my
that.
God, Duschanca, thank you so much for being on the show today. As always, I knew that we was going to have a great time. We will definitely be doing it again, and
Yes.
looking forward to being on your show as
Yes, I
well.
can't wait.
For everyone else who has been tuning in, hopefully you guys picked up the episode on any one of these channels that we have, and I do appreciate you guys tuning in, and if you know anyone that can benefit from these conversations that we have, do me a favor, share it along with them and let them know to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and that way you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, with that being said, thank you guys for your support. I am Tony Lynch. I'm the host, and this is going to conclude another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And we got a lot more amazing people coming up for you guys. So you guys stay tuned, and thank you guys for your support. Until next time, peace.
Bye.